freedom and fairness. Are there parts of your competitors' positions that are not freedom and fair? What do you think?
Well, let's look at special interest groups. That's not fairness. That's certain people get certain things. You look at the laws that get put in. They have an initial bill that comes in, and then people put all these riders on it. So you have something that's initially good, and then it ends up being, first of all, cut by different people. So I'd actually want to have an open, transparent law docketing system where the public could go onto a website. Here's the initial bill that was put forth. Here is the representatives or senators that wanted to alter it. And this is how they altered it. Here's what different people tried to write onto it. And by having this be open and transparent, they're going to do it less. So, that's fairness. I want to get back to fairness. And so by having open and transparent systems, you enhance fairness because then people can't get away with the cronyism as well. So, and then from a freedom point of view, there's lots of laws. One of my statements is, we don't need lawmakers, we need law erasers. So we just have to alleviate a lot of laws off of our books telling us how we live, how we should live. It'd be great to get government 100% out of the marriage business and some other things. Why should the government even be in that? That should be, organizations that decide who or whatever gets married under whatever terms and whatever they want to. And people can get married by whatever organization they want. Just so many things that we need to just get off of the government and into individuals' rights and liberties. So that would be the freedoms that you would want back in there. Does that help?
Yes. Question.
Hey, okay. I was wondering if you had, I know you would know that in private industry, the people who get hired would be based on whatever that private business owner chooses. But I was wondering if, given your background in nanoscience, you were familiar with a system known as Technocracy, where the most qualified people, based on the math and numbers, occupy public office. I was wondering if, as governor, you would like to move towards a system of that. Is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
For elected or for officials, like public officials, government employees.
I think that what would inspire that is someone getting elected into office that has those type of capabilities, the people seeing good results from that and then deciding to elect more of those type of people into office. Not only that, but have it that these people that have these general capabilities see that, wow, I can actually be elected. First of all, they don't want to do it. I'm doing this for public service. It's nothing that I don't want to be governor of the state of Georgia. I need to be. I'm driven to be, okay? So there's a difference. I don't need it from a personal point of view. I need it from a public service point of view that we have to make these changes. We can't let this keep on happening to us. We can't have government keep on growing and infringing on our liberties and crony capitalism. So it's something that I just, why do people serve in the military? It's the same thing, I don't think anyone wants to put their life on the line, but you have to do some things. So, is that?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Anyone? Got another one here?
So you talked a lot about education, and you said a little bit about how you would seek to improve it. If you could elaborate on that, would you favor trying to change the entire system into a charter system? You talked about a savings account, I don't know what that was.
Educational savings account. It's a brand new thing that's just been tried and it's gone through the, judicial trials. Like the vouchers have been kicked out in some states, but the ESA has survived. So you don't want to do something that's just going to be kicked out. You want to have something that's going to work. Well, let's go into my background. So I was one of the very first Montessori children in the whole state of Georgia because my parents started the very first Montessori school ever in the state of Georgia. So education's been important not just to me, but to my parents. And Montessori teaches, one of the things they do is a love of learning. From an early age, the kids love learning. They get excited about it and they want to do it. And so if we can instill that in young children, if we can actually start like Montessori does down at 4 years old or 3 if they're capable, that's great. And that's what we want to do. But then we want to have it, it's money, but you have to look at how you can do the system more cost effectively. And that's where these remote learning and maybe some of the later years, you don't have to have such expensive systems for later, but you can start earlier and still keep the budget in line by providing an overall better system. And that's what I want to do. I want to engineer cost-effective small government solutions. So, but we don't want to have bad education. This is the greatest investment you can make. Your society will prosper, everything will work so well if you have the right people. So.
Can you flesh out what an educational savings account is? I've never heard the term before.
It's an account that's set up that benefits the citizens, okay? And money is put in from the state or federal government. So actually you could have some of the Common Core funding go into one of these accounts to come back, but then people can use along with state money, and local government can put in money, and people can put money in too if they wanted to add to it. They would actually have that money, and if they were cost effective at how they chose to educate their kids, they could have money saved up actually to go through college on it too. So you can cut out some of the college costs of people. Now if they just spend all their money unwisely, so you have to look at the cost of the different school systems and everything like that. But that's free enterprise. Now you're giving the people the vote, instead of government choosing how and what schools they go to, so, and how to spend the money. It's a brand new thing. There's a lot to grasp at one time, and I'm going to try and write something short on it, but I've read some very, very long details on it, and it's hard to shorten it up. But it basically allows a person to have an account from the money, government money, coming back to them, and they can choose how to use it for the benefit of their children.
So it's individual type, on an individual basis?
It's on an individual basis.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And they can choose to go to the public school with it. They can choose to go to a remote learning center. They can choose to go to other things. And, there's different costs for these different things.
Okay, that makes sense.
Now,
Okay, let me just follow up a little bit. So I'm still not sure why this isn't just a voucher system with another name. And maybe that's what it is, and if so, fine. But if it's not, I'd like to hear what the difference
it's
is.
school choice for sure. And that's one thing. I was at a presentation just last week in Macon. It was a great presentation, but they did a survey of people, school choice, and how popular it is. It's like 60 to 70% of the people, no matter what demographic, whether they're Republican or Democrat or anything, they're poor, rich, middle class, it's lands in that 60 to 70% range. People want school choice.
Right, but part of the problem
But
is...
government doesn't give them. Why? Special interests. Crony capitalism.
Okay, so the big issue at the end of the day is Georgia's got one of the worst school systems in the country. And I'm still sort of struggling to figure out how you're going to improve it. We all know just spending more money on it's not going to do it. You're not proposing that. I'm not sure what you are proposing. It seems to me one way to go would be using a savings account like this, dismantle the entire public education system, and allow parents to choose where they spend their money to send their students as they see fit. The school system here spends a lot of money on kids, not through teacher salaries, by the way, because teachers are paid here, let's be honest, more or less the system is set up to treat teachers as if they're definitely second income earners. They're supposed to be the wives of the husbands who make more money. That's the way the system is set up from the beginning, and it hasn't changed since it started. So how you change that system, I don't know. Dismantling the system, I don't know if it's possible, but it seems like a better way to go.
Well, by giving school choice, the public schools have to compete with the non-public schools. If they don't succeed and don't survive, that's okay.
They don't have the instruments to do that because they can't fire teachers at will. They can't lower salaries at will. They can't hire teachers to the salaries they can.
Well, if they're charter schools, they do have that right.
Right. So do you want to go to a whole charter system?
I mean, I would allow the local schools to choose if they wanted to do that or not. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and dictate as governor how all the different school districts are going to run. I would just make it that all the people get the choice. Okay, so that's what I would do. I'm going to give the parents the choice. The parents know 90% of the time what's best for their kids, and government doesn't. There's a few parents, we might disagree with, but that's okay. That's liberty, that's freedom. I can accept that. I'd much rather have a few parents choose incorrectly than the government definitely choosing incorrectly. So
it's going to be a free market system, and if the school doesn't get to the students, they're going to fail and they're going to close down, and those schools are going to be bigger,
exactly.
right?
Free enterprise. Bring in free enterprise and let the parents make the choices. Yep. And you have a certain amount put into an account that the people can use, and if they're able to find lower cost solutions that give an excellent education, and they can save that money, it can only be used for education. No one can use it for anything else. And it has to be for their children. It can't be transferred on to other people. But they can save it up for college.
I actually have a quick question. Hopefully it'll be a quick question that I've been dying to ask. For those, just real quick, for those that are not familiar, I just want to make sure that you understand what I'm asking. I'm going to be asking a question about nullification, where the state will legislate to nullify a federal law that they see as unconstitutional, declaring it null and void, and saying it's unenforceable in the state, and basically because of seeing that the federal government has usurped some kind of power that should be reserved to the states. My question is, as governor, would you urge the legislature to nullify laws that you and probably many in the legislature would see as unconstitutional? What would be your stance on that reaction?
I think the 10th Amendment is a very, very important amendment. That's giving and reserving the rights not just to the states, but to the people too. So, absolutely, 100%. And one of the things is that a state has to declare their right to enact the 10th Amendment. So I would absolutely do that. In places where we don't agree with the federal rules and laws, I think we should absolutely go through the process of doing that and command back our liberties and rights. We're supposed to be a republic, okay? That means you're supposed to have different systems in different states. You shouldn't have that you have a majority of people that want to do large social welfare programs be able to put that on everyone. There are certain states that can have those programs, and I have no problem with that. And the people that believe and want to do that can live in those states. Other states should be able to have other types of systems where you don't have dysfunctional enabling systems, but you instead care about people and want to give them a hand up, a great education, a great path forward. Maybe a cot for a short term, well, there's some downturns, but not long-term, things that people want to foster into. So I think that we absolutely need to go through the process, and I would inspire both of our houses to do that, and for me to sign those laws and challenge it. We're going to have to go to the Supreme Court on some of those too, because the federal government's not going to want to give up control of those things. So we'll have to challenge it through the court system too. And I think we need to do that.
Does anyone have anything controversial?
We haven't been controversial yet?
Well, I'm really controversial. For transportation, MARTA in particular, I looked and analyzed last year's fiscal report for MARTA and saw that bus drivers, they're paid about $33,000 a year base salary, but some of them are making $92,000, including overtime. Most of them make 100% more than their base salary. Have you looked at MARTA or just spending in general in government agencies? It seems like MARTA is, we're wasting money if we're spending $92,000 on a bus driver.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. So we have no controversy there, I'm sorry to say. We need to have cost-effective government, and there's so much waste and abuse in the government that we can easily slice off chunks. But the matter is, you have to inspire people to do that. And I'm not going to be a gold dome sitter. I'm going to be someone that gets around the state, meets with people, understands what goes on, and inspires people for change. So I think great leaders have to not just sit back and try and do things remotely, but will reach out to people and change their mood and their culture about things.
You started your talk about jobs. If I were an employer, 2 of the states which touch Georgia have no income tax. Do you consider changing that, or what will attract a new employer to come to Georgia?
Well, if they really employ people, if they're just doing a business, then they might want to go, or headquarters don't have any employees, they might want to go to one of those income tax free states over mine. But if they are providing a lot of jobs, this program will give them the greatest benefit. Because whether they have a flat year, a down year, or an up year, they're going to be getting these programs. And a lot of times employers care more about the stability of the nature rather than saying, okay, I'm only going to be hit when I have the high income. So I'm a small business myself. I've talked to a lot of other people, and it's really painful when especially when you're a high-tech growth company, and all you want to do is grow, or any company that just wants to grow, whether you're high-tech or not. And you're having to pay out all these taxes, and you're limited in your growth in the hiring of people based on these employment taxes. So you wouldn't be paying income taxes anyways, but you can't hire more people and grow anymore because of the taxes you're having to pay, not related to being a profitable company or not at that time, because you care more about growth than the other. So that's the type of companies that you would be attracting. You're not only going to be attracting companies that want to build a factory, which can take 3 to 6 years to hire the people. You're going to be inspiring companies that are here right now, have presence right here, right now, to hire those people. So it's a faster way of getting job creation also. I would love to get rid of income taxes as a next step. After this gets fully implemented, the economy grows so much, and you have so many other things, that would be a great second step, but that's not the initial step. The initial step is tie your tax money reductions, your tax reductions directly to jobs. There's no better way of tying them directly to jobs than the employment penalty taxes. You can get nothing closer.
I wanted to follow up on that. So is this proposal supposed to be like revenue neutral? If you said a figure of something like $3 billion, did you plan on raising taxes and somewhere else to cover that, or cutting programs to pay for that, or is it just supposed to?
Let's get rid of government waste and abuse, okay? We can easily knock off, 10, maybe 20% of the budget just in that area alone, okay? Then you look at our prison system. Let's do real prison reform. Let's close down a few of these prisons. Let's save the money on that. Let's bring families back together for victimless crimes, okay? And let's work that into the system. That's a great savings of money. And restoring people into being taxpayers instead of a tax drain. Let's look at how, without adjusting the rates, okay, no increase in the rates, you have a better economy. You have more taxpayers. You have more people paying sales tax, gasoline tax, income tax, without adjusting the rates of it all. It happens. That's what happens. So you have a great economy, low unemployment, you have less people on social welfare and other costs and expenses. You have a lower crime rate when people have higher unemployment. So many positives. there's nothing that can be more positive for Georgia than a low unemployment rate. This is the top driving factor, and education is such a close second, it's ridiculous, okay? But jobs, I have to put number one because it affects even education, okay? And then education is a close second.
I hear Mark Levin a lot of times talk about a convention of the states. Would you support that as governor? As a libertarian, I figure I probably already know the answer, but
Yeah. I think it's something that's very important, but could end up being a terrible wormhole if we're not careful about it. Because if you look closely at the Convention of States, whoever you send as your representative can kind of decide a lot of things. And if you get a room full of people from different states that are just a whole bunch of attorneys or liberals or whatever else, you could end up with something a lot worse than what we have right now. So if it's done, it has to be done with the right people, with the right limitations on their powers and everything like that. So there's Georgia, when they did the Convention of States, and they've joined it, already, they didn't have any of these restrictions or limitations on it. A couple of the other states have done it correctly, where they're only allowed to address certain things and do certain things, and their people that are going there are bound by laws on what they're allowed to do and not do. Otherwise, you could get a group of people really coming up and really just throwing America down the trash can. So, yes, I agree with it if it's done right, okay? But this would have to be very carefully crafted and watched over and done right.
yeah, and of course Mark talks very much about the limitations, that you're only allowed to go within whatever you've been authorized to negotiate. But so, what limitations would you give, your people that you send to the convention?
I have not gone into great detail. I just know the potential issues and pitfalls of it. I think it's something, I also know enough that something can be done, but I would have to spend a lot of time and effort talking to experts. And I'm not going to do that right now because I'm talking to experts about things that matter now and not something that's a maybe, okay? If we get to the point of that happening, where you see enough states starting to join in that we're getting to the point of it getting critical mass, and I'm the governor, you better believe that's going to be a highlighted area that I'm going to draw attention and detail to, because I would not want it to go wrong. And it could go very, very wrong. Okay, it had to be done right. So if anyone that thinks that the Convention of States is just some fantasy and everything will be great, I'm letting you know right now, it could go very wrong. Okay, we have to be very careful about how we do it.
Tool that's used right.
Yes, yes, yes.
Might as well get into this. One of my favorite things is, from some previous campaigns, if you're elected governor, what are things that you can do as governor that you don't have to go to the legislature for, that you don't have to do? One of them is look at the victimless crime people in prison. Now, I wouldn't say you just day one release all of them. You have to go and study which ones are really victimless crimes. But what about releasing those, pardoning those people, and not waiting 4 years to do it, or 6 years as Obama's doing to start to think about it? But what can you do early on in your term to release some of those people?
And that's a great question. And so there is some restrictions in Georgia on the governor. You can't just do a full pardon. It has to have been a partial service of service that then they can do a pardon on, okay? So I would definitely take that into consideration. And then I would look at a good transition. Because the last thing you want to do is just dump people out on the street, because then they're just going to end back in again, or whatever. So I would try to work with companies and have them come in, have it where you have a service inside the jails instead of jails just putting people down. It's like our police need to protect us, not attack us, is one of the things I say. The jails need to be reform institutes and not just people that push down on other people. So work with them to write resumes, work with them to bring companies in for interviews, and then have part of your release program be related to them getting jobs. So that then they have incentives to really work the program so that they get released, and then you have to look at, the companies, okay? So hopefully we get to the point where we drive down unemployment and people want to do that. You have it that, you don't have such tie-up of people's long-term rights and privileges based on being a quote-unquote criminal for a victimless crime. So we definitely need to lift that off the people that are in there, where they lose voting rights, they lose almost the ability to get a job because of the records and everything like that. So we definitely need to take a lot of that off of them.
I had a question passed to me that I want to go ahead and read off. What would you do to ensure that sheriffs keep the feds from enforcing unconstitutional laws in Georgia?
Well, first of all, I want the sheriffs not to do that. So I would want to get rid of no-knock warrants, just period, just get rid of them, okay? We need to get it where the police forces can't just take property from people under suspicion, but actually have to go through due process to get that property taken back into the public coffers. So you get rid of this thing. Well, right now, the police officers can just take things from them without them even charging people with things. It's just terrible what they can do right now. So we need to get rid of that. But sheriffs, as far as them, the federal agents have a limited number of federal agents. So it's more important that we clean up our police system that we can, and then you can just not help them. I think that's one of the best things to do, is not help them. And then go through the proxy of the state taking back its rights, and limiting what the federal laws are, rules that enhance our liberties.
So I was trying not to be controversial before, but I love your response to the question about victimless crimes and what to do about the people in jail now for having committed these so-called crimes. So moving forward, would you be willing to push for decriminalizing so-called victimless crimes, get rid of all the anti-drug laws, not just for marijuana, but for cocaine, et cetera, and perhaps get rid of prescription drug laws, just to make that stuff completely open and use the free enterprise system to deal with it?
Yeah, I definitely think we could have more things over the counter, and then I also think that we could decriminalize more and more things over time, but I'm not going to say that I can get any of those things passed in 4 years' time, okay? So my stance is I want a broad and strong medical marijuana program that gets enacted while I'm governor, okay? I think that can go through. The majority of the people want it, and it's just a matter of getting the majority of the people to talk to the representatives to get it through, okay? So I think this is doable. You just have to have someone that's going to be up in that top office and campaign for it. Let the people know, and let the representatives know they're not going to be allowed to work this. That you're going to call, I'm going to call the people to call on them, and so they won't be happy. Some of the others, you get less percentage of the people, but I think as we get medical marijuana going, we get other things going, and start down that path of liberty, I think over time we can get more and more done. And we need to make it that people are going to be responsible too, because with greater liberty comes greater responsibility. So we need to show that people will be responsible as we give up these controlling laws and rules, and that they do step up to the plate and it works better. And then more and more people will come in and join us. So it's a stepwise progress if we're going to do this practically. I'm a practical libertarian. I'm not going to promise more than I feel like I can deliver. And so I think I have to limit it to medical marijuana. And I'm sorry, but yeah.
We've got 8 more minutes left till 9 o'clock. Got a next question here.
I don't think you need to get rid of no-knock warrants. I think you need to educate the officers and the magistrate, the judges who hand out these no-knock warrants. They need, if they're one of the educational programs, to understand what they're doing. And they need to investigate more thoroughly who they're going after and where they're going to hit. There's too many people make mistakes when they go and hit the wrong places.
they go in the wrong houses. Either the police officer gets shot and then the person gets charged with killing a police officer even though they're broken into the wrong home, or the people end up getting shot and just... So maybe you'd have to have a tribunal, not a single judge that does it, but 3 judges. You have to get 3 judges to sign off before you get a no-knock warrant, or something that makes it so onerous that it has to be a really, really bad thing to get a no-knock warrant. It has to be just, this is the only option. You know, no one will want to go through the hassle of doing it, and if so, you have to have 3 people that say it's bad. You know, but it's gone so far the wrong way that we're better off without it than with it at this point right now.
Yeah, because you have too many officers that want to just rush right into something instead of taking the time to make sure they have the right address on the warrant, make sure they have the right place, make sure they have staked out the right place, and then they just, just go tell the judge, look, this is what we need, this is what we need. And then while they're out at a place, then they'll send for the warrant. And then while they know the judge is going to sign it, then they go ahead and hit the place. And unless you really know this is exactly what you want, you know, before they hand out no-knock warrants, they need to make sure. And that's why they're having so many.
And this might be one of those areas that I will have to compromise off my position to get something in, but I would want to go with more than 1 judge signing and some other things, criteria to make it a difficult process, that you only want to do this in the very worst situations where really you have no other option. Yeah, and so, you know, to say 100% no, but and that's one thing I'll do. If I have to compromise on things in my positions, I'll make public statements why. Okay, this is what came, this is what we can get, and then hopefully we'll see how this works. And if we need to amend it more, we will. But that's one thing, I won't just sign laws in without an explanation of why I'm signing this law. Or, you know, let them know who added things that I totally disagree with. I totally disagree with this and this. Here are the parties that are responsible for putting those things in there. But this is much better than what we had before. It's not what I want, and then, you know, be open about it. Open and transparent, that's what we have to do. So, and willing to compromise. I'm going to be, well, there might be Jeff Amazon in the office, you know, also. Hopefully he'll make it through, and there'll be 2 people, well, 1 person in the House, and me as governor. But I'm going to have to compromise. But I'm going to try and lead and get things pushed forward in the right direction.
I agree with making more of a judge.
Do you think that would be a good thing? Maybe 2 or 3 judges having to sign, and then it makes the process a lot more difficult. They'll think of other ways of arresting people rather than using no-knock warrant.
And they'll make sure that they've actually done what they need to do instead of someone actually just taking their word for it.
Yeah.
We've got time for 1 more question. Here we go.
Hey, I like some of the things you've said about victimless crimes and laws we're expected to follow being in plain English. That just makes sense. Also, the recognition that some people need assistance, public transportation, that kind of thing. You have some good ideas, some practical ideas. So where I'm really confused is your strategy. I'm sorry, this is going to be offensive, but it's a controversial topic discussion in the meetup group. So why are you running for state office as a libertarian? Because libertarians are more likely to win at the local level, and there are some liberty-minded Republicans who have run it and are members of the legislature. Not all of them are as controversial as 2 who did not win, 2 who are not going to be there next year. But that seems like an opportunity because there are liberty-minded, more liberty-minded Republicans who are members of the legislature and work with the other people. You mentioned Brad B. Cantor, yes, but Brad was running as an alternative Republican candidate. So I'm just wondering what your strategy is, what you hope to actually accomplish running for statewide office as a libertarian.
No, that's a very fair question. And I'm running for office to win. That's the simple thing, okay? Now, there are independents. There are other parties that have won governor races in the United States. Okay?
Georgia.
This is Georgia. Okay? But at the same point, we're now at the point that we've never been at ever before in the history of our country, where our US Congress has, what, a 9% approval rating? And the president's really low, and everyone's saying that this whole two-party system thing is not working anymore. So I'm a PhD engineer, small businessman, and hopefully lots of people will find me as a credible candidate. So that's the other difference too. Other people have had, positions that, aren't quite the resume that I've had, and they haven't been able to run full-time either. So I think that is two big pluses, to make a differentiation from the previous candidates. But I think the timing is right now. I mean, this survey is real. When I talk out there, it's 70 or 80% of the people that are dissatisfied with it. When I talk to people, I get a 70% conversion rate of people wanting to vote for me. But other people won't be that high because you're not the candidate. So you might get a 40% conversion rate. So let's look at that. Let's say we get a 40% conversion rate of people talking to people. I need 800,000 votes. Usually there's about 2.4 million votes in a gubernatorial election cycle in Georgia. Okay? If you have 1/3 or higher, you're in the runoff. Okay? That's about 800,000 votes. So if, not me, but let's say the grassroots network goes out and reaches to 2 million voters or more, we'll get the 800,000 number we need. It's practical, it's real, it can happen. What we have to address is the issues that people bring up that I'm just going to be a spoiler. Well, nice thing is we're a runoff state. That actually stops you from having a spoiler issue if I get enough votes that no one breaks 50% in the general election. Well, right now, the latest poll shows 41% to Deal, 40% to Carter, and 8% to me. That's a record high. Okay? So we're on the path. No one can bring up the spoiler issue. You'll have a chance to vote for the top two. Brad was polling at 32%. This is 2 weeks before the election. 32% behind Cantor. He won by more than 10%. That's a 42% swing. Pollings, they go after likely voters. Well, guess what? All these people that are so disgruntled that are the main core of my campaign aren't likely voters. That's what he won. That's how he got into office. So it is a realistic plan. It is achievable, but only if we, the people, do it. I can't do it. We have to do it. Everyone has to get involved. Everyone needs to talk to at least a few people. Everyone needs to do these few basic steps. Like my Facebook page, invite all your friends to like it. Give the campaign cards to people. Talk to people. I actually have a smaller card. It's like anyone that wants a set of these made, we can get a set of these made. It has just a few simple facts, website thing. You can have your name on it, your address, your phone number, the title, field coordinator, agent of change, whatever, okay? And you can hand these people. You just have them in your pocket so you don't have this big clunky thing. You can say, wow, you really need to check out Hunt for Governor because this way we get government back. And just hand it to people, just in everyday conversations, wherever you're walking, what you're doing. You can have a bunch of these just in your pocket anywhere in the right situation, just hand it to someone. So you just have to email me and say, yeah, I want 1,000 of those business cards. Here's the name I want on it, the address, the phone number, and the title that you want on there. And I'll gladly send that to the people that want to hand those out. It's the least expensive way of getting the word out, and it's the person to person. That's what one thing that got into my head in the campaign school I went to. I went up to D.C., went to the Leadership Institute campaign school, 4-day schooling, because I believe in learning from other people. There's no reason to go down the school of hard knocks. So I learned from them, and the number one thing, 8 times more effective than listening to a whole bunch of TV ads and newsprint ads and all, is a person talking to another person saying, this is my candidate. This is how we need to go forward. This is how we can take it back and make it. So, but it's up to you guys. It's not me. I'm here just as a vestibule of the action, okay? And you all need to be the activity and make it happen. I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do everything I can to make things right, but without you all, I'm nothing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hunt. I appreciate you coming out here tonight and spending time with all of us. We all just have any social time that you guys would like to have now. And please make sure to say hi to Dr. Hunt before he leaves tonight.